I'm just a rock chick.
I would describe my music and my sound as Avril.
It's the best damn thing.
Welcome to our first episode of 2024 of the Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast, a facts and trivia-based podcast about Canadian pop singer Avril Lavigne. I'm your host, Andrea DiFrancesco. So, like I said, it is our first episode of 2024. I know that, the last episode I put up was just before Christmas, so it has been a little bit since the last episode. I actually did want to get an episode up in January, and then I just really fell behind on things because, as I have alluded to in the last few episodes, I have been busy with wedding planning. My wedding is coming up in early June, so we are less than 6 months away from it, and that's when the planning really starts to get down to the wire. So I kind of wanted to be upfront in the first episode of the year. I figured as long as we're going to be talking about all the things that are going on with Avril, she just announced a big tour that she's doing this year and that kind of thing. As long as we were going to be talking about the big things, big plans that she has for this year, that I would be upfront in the episode, the first episode of the year, just to say upfront, hey, I'm really busy with wedding planning at this time, and we're planning on going on our honeymoon probably in October is what we're aiming for. And then, pretty soon after that is when the holidays come up, and then before we know it, we're into 2025. So just to be really upfront from the beginning, there's probably not going to be a ton of episodes this year just because I'm just frankly a little bit too busy for it. I really love doing the podcast. I love talking about everything going on with Avril, especially because it seems like, there's a really big year ahead for her with the tour, new music on the way and that kind of thing. Possibly Under My Skin anniversary, a lot of really exciting stuff coming up this year from her that I'm really excited to talk about. But unfortunately, I just don't have a lot of time or energy these days because a lot of it is devoted to A, my full-time job, and B, wedding planning, which anybody who's ever planned a wedding knows that it's basically like a second full-time job. I totally appreciate all the people who listen to this podcast and who always give me nice feedback about it and say that they enjoy it. So I just appreciate everybody's patience as I've been working through that, and that I can't get episodes up as frequently as I would like to. Hopefully once the craziness dies down, that I'll be able to get back into more of a regular routine with uploading episodes. I have a lot of ideas, honestly, for episodes and things I want to do. And like I said, there's a lot of fun, exciting things coming up with Avril this year that I'm really excited to talk about. So it's hopefully I can, maybe get back into doing bi-weekly episodes or at least monthly episodes maybe. And certainly whenever she announces something really huge, hopefully I can still try to at least do these bonus episode kind of things. But, I don't want to make any promises right now because I just have no idea what's going to be coming up in the next few months, how busy I'm going to be. And I don't want to make promises that I won't be able to fulfill. So I just wanted to be really, really upfront from the beginning with this first episode of the year, just to say things are getting really busy for me now, and throughout the whole year, honestly, things are going to be relatively busy for me and just a lot of craziness happening, all good things, but just leaves me a lot less time and energy to be able to do podcasting for now. So hopefully you will still stick with me, and like I said, whenever Avril announces something super major, hopefully I will still be able to maybe find time to sit down and talk about it at some point. I'm going to at least try to do something around the Under My Skin anniversary. I don't know if she's going to actually put out an anniversary album like some people are thinking, but at least doing an episode celebrating the Under My Skin anniversary, I would really like to be able to do that at least, which unfortunately the timing of that comes really close to my wedding. But I do have everything kind of laid out already, so hopefully I'll be able to at least get that up for you. And once the tour happens as well, I'm going to talk about this later, but I did end up getting tickets to one of her tour dates, and so I would definitely like to be able to do an episode about my experience going to see her on this new tour that she's planning and that kind of thing. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of let you know, there's probably not going to be too many normal episodes for now, at least not until my wedding's over and that kind of thing. But hopefully with everything that Avril has planned for us this year, we will be more than entertained in the meantime. So getting into it, like I said, for the first episode of the new year, I figured we should discuss the huge tour announcement that she made, plus maybe our theories about the next album and what's to come this year, like the documentary that she's been working on and the potential Under My Skin anniversary and all those kinds of things. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here are the latest happenings with Avril since our last episode. On January 16th, 2024, a snippet of a song called Dick, stylized with an asterisk to read as Ick, began circulating online. It's believed to be a cut from Avril's upcoming 8th studio album. Other songs are also believed to be in circulation, both from her 8th album as well as previous albums. The list includes Always Move On from The Best Damn Thing, Hangover from Goodbye Lullaby, Burnout, Dancing with a Hurricane, Forget Me, Me, Myself, and I, Superstition, and Take My Breath from Love Sucks, Boy at the Rock Show, Ick, Rap Star, Stranger, and Signs from the 8th album and Second Time Around, which is unknown. On January 22nd, Avril announced a Greatest Hits tour, which will run throughout the US and Canada beginning in May and ending in September. Special guests include Simple Plan, All Time Low, Girlfriends, and Royal and the Serpent. She plans to sing all the hits from her previous albums as well as fan requests. VIP packages include early entry and access to merch, priority seating, drink tokens, Avril-inspired cocktails in the pre-show Skater Boy Hospitality Lounge, an autographed item, photo ops, a display of Avril's career highlights, commemorative tickets, special merch, and more. There are no current plans at this time for a formal meet and greet. On January 26th, Avril did an interview with Entertainment Tonight where she reviewed some of the highlights from her career and favorite music videos. She also did several other promotional interviews for radio stations and media outlets about her upcoming tour. The following day, she uploaded a TikTok with the members of Simple Plan, All Time Low, Girlfriends, and Royal and the Serpent lip-syncing to What the Hell to promote the upcoming tour. On January 29th, she went out for dinner in West Hollywood with country singer Nate Smith, and the two were also spotted skateboarding. He had done a Q&A a few days earlier on social media stating he'd like to do a collaboration with Avril, sparking rumors that they were possibly meeting to discuss the idea. Avril is confirmed to attend the Clive Davis pre-Grammys party on February 3rd, and Avril's longtime collaborator Lauren Christie announced she will release a dark ballad rendition of Skater Boy on February 9th. Additionally, The Best Damn Thing surpassed 2 billion streams on YouTube Music, becoming Avril's most streamed album on that platform. It also surpassed over 1 billion streams on Spotify, becoming her second album to achieve this milestone. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is my thoughts on that Dick/Ick snippet that we got. I just think the song is okay, but it's hard to tell anything from it since it's like a really, really short snippet. It's maybe 11 seconds long or something. And even though I guess it's believed to be a snippet from her upcoming new album, it doesn't really seem to be that different from Love Sucks or her past work. And I also think, I mentioned this when we were talking about it on Avril Band-Aids, that I really think if they're going to actually release the song on the album, that they really need to change the name, because when people were trying to search for it online, like if you're trying to type into Google, like Avril Lavigne Dick or Avril Lavigne Dick song snippet or something, it's really awkward. Like the searches that you get on Google are very questionable. So, I mean, I know that she also has a song called Naked, but at the time that that song came out, like the internet was not what it is now. And so I don't think they were anticipating people Googling for it and that kind of thing. So I just feel like nowadays with the way that the internet is, it's a really awkward title to try to search for. And I think if they plan on officially releasing it, they really need to find a different name for it that's easier to search for. Other than that, I don't have any real thoughts about it. I just think it's okay. It's nothing special. Like I wouldn't be disappointed if they left it off the album. Like I think I'm kind of like really hoping for the next album that it's different than Love Sucks. And I just think this one isn't anything we didn't already hear on the last album, you know? Also, I did kind of have an interesting theory about, like, I know that she censored the D out of it because, well, she's like censoring it. But I also kind of thought it was clever because I don't know if it's like supposed to be pronounced like dick or if you now pronounce it like ick. And like, I kind of, because like the lyrics of the song are like, you always acted like a dick, always treated me like shit or whatever the lyric was. And I kind of wondered if it was meant to be like if it reads like ick, that she's saying like, you give me the ick or something like that. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of an interesting observation. Then there was like this other song that's supposedly floating around. Like we haven't heard a snippet of it. It's just a title floating around called Boy at the Rock Show. And I had a theory about this. When I saw the title, I instantly thought of the song Rock Show by Blink-182. Because that song has a lyric that says, I fell in love with a girl at the rock show. And so since we know that Avril is very closely, tied with Blink-182 because of Travis Barker and Mark Hoppus, I kind of wondered if maybe it might be a cover or a possible like reinterpretation of that song, which I think would be really interesting if she redid that song, but from the girl's perspective, like the girl at the rock show, this guy came up to her and started talking to her or whatever. I think it would be kind of like, that's something that's been like really popular lately, is to kind of take old songs and like reinterpret them in certain ways, especially on like TikTok and stuff. People seem to be doing that. And so I think it would be really interesting, this song that's probably like 20 years old at this point or something, if she did it from the perspective of the girl. I think that would be really interesting and unique. But it could also just be like the title is just a coincidence maybe, but that's just kind of my theory about it. And that's like what I thought of as soon as I saw that title. I also had a thought about the song Stranger. There's like one of those, again, titles floating around. We don't have the actual song, just the title is floating around, called Stranger. And what a lot of people thought of when they saw that title is that Mod Sun released a song in July of 2023 called Strangers, which was also kind of alluding to her and their breakup. And so I kind of wonder if it's probably just a coincidence that they share the same title, but I wonder if the song ended up being scrapped just because the titles are too similar, especially because her and him are linked, obviously, as artists. And it might just like cause like a whole, can of worms or something if she ended up releasing a song that has a title that's really, really similar to his. So I wouldn't be surprised if we never hear this one, or at least if she wants to release it, she probably needs to change the title. And then my last thought about these titles that we have floating around, there's one called Signs, and to me that's likely the same song as Seeing the Signs, which had a snippet leak in October 2023. So that's all we have for snippets for now, just that one like actual song snippet of the Dick/Ick song, and the other ones are just titles floating around for now. The next thing I wanted to talk about is my thoughts on this Greatest Hits tour that she announced. That's the huge main announcement that this episode's about, and the latest biggest thing that she's talked about so far. So when she first announced it, I was a little bit surprised that she was calling it a Greatest Hits tour, because usually, like up until now, all of her tours have either been promotional tours for an upcoming album, or they're a proper tour in support of whatever her latest album is. And even though like for the last probably 10 years, she's really been playing Greatest Hits anyway, like most of her tour set lists at this point are pretty much all Greatest Hits, and then she'll play maybe 4 or 5 songs from the new album. So she isn't really playing that much new music anymore. And so I guess calling it a Greatest Hits tour is at this point the right name for it, especially because we don't know what's happening with the album yet. Like, I do have a theory about like where she's at with the album, but I'll save that for, a few minutes from now. I'll talk more about that later. But just talking about this Greatest Hits tour, I think, like at first I think a lot of fans were kind of like, oh, is she really like at that point in her career now where she's kind of like, it's almost like she's just given into the fact that she's a legacy artist. And I get that, but I think considering that this is the North American tour, you kind of have to remember that she isn't as popular really here as she used to be. And so I think marketing herself as a Greatest Hits artist or, legacy act at this point is the right way to go. And she's playing much bigger venues than like the last US tour here that she did that was her own tour was the Head Above Water tour, which was way back in 2019. And she was playing small theaters. And then the last time she toured the US in general was in 2022 as an opening act for Machine Gun Kelly. And they were playing like arenas and stadiums on that tour, but it wasn't her own tour. So, I mean, first of all, I'm just really happy that she finally announced a proper headlining tour in the US because I wasn't going to go see her as an opening act for an artist that I didn't really care about anyway. And so I'm really happy that she is doing her own tour, and the fact that they are doing it in arenas and the tour has been selling really well, I think is a testament to the fact that she can still pull in an audience just based on the fact that she has a lot of hits to her name. And I know that like some fans were kind of disappointed because then it really confirms that she isn't going to play a lot of stuff outside of the singles that we've heard a bunch of times. And in the Entertainment Tonight interview that Avril did, she talked about like how, I've always wanted to have like an all single set list, and I'm really proud of that. And everybody was like, yeah, but that's not like what the fans want. And I get that, but I also thinking about it from Avril's perspective, I again had kind of talked about this on Band-Aids when we were discussing the tour. I think when you think about it from Avril's perspective, because people are kind of like, how is she not bored of playing all the singles, or doesn't she realize like the fans want to hear other stuff? There's a couple reasons I think why Avril plays the singles, because those are the ones that usually go over the best live, because they're the ones that people know the most, or the ones that you can sing along with the best. But also, I think when you think about it from her perspective, out of the thousands and thousands of artists who try to do music professionally, only a very, very small percentage of them make it to the level that Avril has. And to get even just one hit, like out of the hundreds of songs that compete with each other on the charts every year, for any song to become a hit is kind of like a thing that rarely happens if you think about it. And then to actually repeat that kind of success album after album after album over the course of 20 years like she has, to actually be able to have multiple hits to your name is something rarely achieved. Like, I think we kind of take it for granted because we look at artists like, we look at really big artists today like Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, whatever, people like that, and we just think like, oh, hit songs are a dime a dozen. But again, when you look at the percentage of people, like out of all of the people who try to do music professionally, and then you look at the percentage of those people that actually get hit songs that people all over the world know and can sing along with, it's a really kind of actually rare achievement. And so I don't blame Avril for being proud of that. Like, I think she should be proud of that because it's really difficult to make that happen and to make it happen multiple times, like where you can actually build a whole set list off of just hit singles that people know. So, I get why she's doing it. And like, yeah, I mean, certainly I would like to hear some other songs too. And like, she did mention that she was going to maybe do some fan requests or that kind of thing. So hopefully she can maybe pull out something unexpected here and there, or at least pull out some fan favorites and stuff from time to time. I will say, as somebody who has seen her in concert a couple of times and, she mostly played the hit singles, those were the ones that I actually really did enjoy the most in concert because the energy was just different and everybody in the whole crowd loved singing along with them. So, I think regardless, it's always fun to see her in concert. Like, if you can make it to the tour, I think if you can go, it's always worth it to go and see her. It's always fun no matter what she plays. And especially for me, like where I am, she rarely comes to my area. And so this time she actually is. So I'm going to the Connecticut date, which is on August 21st. I was able to get tickets. And I was just like so excited the day that she announced this because, first of all, I wasn't expecting it. It was a huge surprise to, I think, everybody. Like, we had no idea that this was coming. And it really just reminded me how much of a fan I am of her music. Like, I've loved her since I was 9 years old, like a little girl, and I'm now in my 30s, and I have grown with her music. I remember where I was at every single album release. And so if I had said this on Band-Aids, I had said, if I could go back and tell my 9-year-old self, like 20 years from now, you're going to go see Avril on her greatest hits tour, like all these years later, you're still going to be a fan. You're still going to love her music. You're going to go see her on her greatest hits tour. She would just be absolutely ecstatic to know that, like, all these years later, we're still going with her. And, I grew up with her music, as most people who are her fans did. Like, most of us grew up on her music, and she kind of led us through all of the stages of growing up. Like, I remember I was in high school when Goodbye Lullaby came out, and I remember like listening to the Head Above Water album on the day it got released. I was on the bus going to work or something. It's like all the different stages of life. I remember where I was with each album. And so to kind of go to a tour that is celebrating all of that and celebrating her career, I think is really special for us, like kind of long timers, or the ones who have been around since day one, the hardcore fans, the ones who have stuck around for every single album. I think it's just sort of like a really special kind of commemorative thing for us, kind of like very, very similar to Taylor's Eras tour. So like I said in the beginning, once I go to that show, I would definitely like to come back and do an episode just talking about my experience of seeing her live. I had also mentioned this too when the tour got announced, that last year, as I had kind of alluded to a few times, I didn't have the greatest year last year. Just like so many things happened that were really stressful or upsetting, or like whatever happened, like just a lot of like really bad luck kind of things happening to me constantly, pretty much it felt like. And it was like a really, really stressful year for me. And I just felt like I was having the worst possible luck all the time. And I just remember saying to myself, like, 2024 better be the best year of my life after this kind of year that I've had. And it's like, well, I'm getting married, I'm going on my honeymoon, and I'm getting to go see Avril Lavigne. Like, that's a pretty good year in my book. So I was just so happy and excited when she announced it. Like, literally the day she announced it, I was so ecstatic. I was probably very, very obnoxious about how excited I was, just because it reminded me of like how much I love her and her music. And like I said, the fact that like the last time I saw her live was 5 years ago, and she doesn't come to my area all the time on every single tour. And so the fact that she is actually coming and I was able to get tickets and everything, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go see her, And I just know I'm going to have such an amazing time. It's going to be really fun. And like I said, just like after the last year that I had, to be able to go see, like, not just go see a concert, like to go see my favorite artist in concert and sing along to all the songs that I know and love, I feel like, that is kind of like the rainbow after the storm kind of thing for me. So that's, I think, why I'm particularly excited, like possibly maybe more excited about it than maybe some people are. Like some people are excited about it, and I'm like maybe an extra level of obnoxious excited about it because of that. As far as what the set list and everything is going to be like, I mean, I don't think it's going to be terribly different than what she played on the European Love Sucks tour. Like, I think it's going to be probably somewhere between 16 and 18 songs at the most. I don't think it's going to be anything on the scale of the Eras tour where she's playing like a 40-song set list or anything. Some people have talked about costumes, like if they think she's going to bring back some of her most iconic outfits, or maybe if they're going to do sort of like on the Eras tour, they did make costumes that were sort of like a callback to some of Taylor's iconic outfits from those eras, but they're not the exact pieces themselves. So I don't know if they're going to try to do something like that, or she's just going to wear like a standard outfit for the show. And if the set list will really be split into eras, kind of the way that Taylor's doing, or if they're just going to be songs all mixed together, I think that will be really interesting to see. But Avril has never done a show like that. She's never done a show that like is like split up into acts like that, or she's like grouped songs together that are all from like one specific album or anything. She's never done anything like that. So, you know, I don't know if I don't know if the production is going to be anything different than what we've seen and they're just giving it a different name, or if it's going to be like a completely different type of show than she's ever done before. I think it would be really cool if they did it like that, like a kind of mini Eras tour, or the Eras tour like on a much smaller scale maybe. But I think it would be really fun and interesting and different if she actually did do like different costumes and split the show into eras and that kind of thing. I think that would be really different for her. The next thing that I was going to address is like what fans think this might mean for the album. That she had said in the new year she wanted to release music, but she still hasn't really said much about it yet. And so because the tour is called the Greatest Hits Tour and not named after the album, I guess this is why people think it means that it's delayed. I kind of have a theory about it. I think this is what I think. And I don't know anything. Obviously, like, I'm not part of Avril's camp. I don't have any inside scoop on her proceedings or anything. But this is just my own personal theory. What would make sense to me is I think that it's very possible that she could put out a single or two before the tour begins. She'll do the tour, and then I think the album could potentially come in the fall after the tour is over, and then she could go and do like a proper tour for the album in 2025. That's just what I think. I mean, I think the Love Sucks album did reasonably well in terms of commercial sales and charts and that kind of thing. But I think it's possible that they're doing this tour to kind of give her a resurgence and popularity and marketing her as a greatest hits artist. Like I had said, the shows are selling really well because of that. Like nostalgia is kind of what sells at this point and what at least people in North America kind of associate with Avril. So I think they're trying to kind of remind people that she exists before she drops. It's sort of like a promo before dropping new music. Like, yeah, I have all these hit songs, but like I still make new music as well. So I think it's just possibly a strategy that they're trying to see if it might boost potentially the new album sales. That's just my theory. So I don't think it means that the album won't be coming this year. Like there's the whole year ahead of us to find out if the album is coming or not. Honestly, I think even if she waited until 2025, it still wouldn't be that big of a deal because it would only be 3 years since Love Sucks, which isn't that bad. And I guess while we're on the topic of the album, the other big news is that she's been hanging out with this country singer named Nate Smith. And so a lot of people are wondering if she's possibly changing the direction of the album to be more country. I really don't think so. I think it's possible that they could be doing a collaboration for him. And what's funny is coincidentally, he has a song called Under My Skin. So I think it would be kind of, and like I listened to the song and I think Avril could actually sound pretty good on it. So it would be kind of funny if they decided to do like a redo of that song as a duet or something. And if they released it around the Under My Skin anniversary, that would be kind of funny. But I think it's a lot more likely that they would be working on something for him. I don't think she's going to suddenly change the direction of her album to be country. I think going country is something that she's kind of talked about here and there. And she's dipped her toes in a little bit, like she did the Shania Twain tribute. She did the duet with Miranda Lambert. She's kind of experimented a little bit with it. But I feel like it's one of those things that she's going to talk about doing for a while and never actually do it. Like kind of like the Christmas album. It's like something that she's talked about doing for a long time. And it still hasn't come to fruition. I don't know. I think a lot of people, they're just worried that this means the album is delayed, but I don't see her changing the entire direction of the album to be country, especially. I just don't see that happening. And I don't see why, even if the album was done and she did want to change the direction, why she couldn't just put out the music that she has now and do her 9th album as a country album, you know? And as I had also alluded to earlier in this episode, is we're still not sure if there's going to be an Under My Skin Anniversary edition. I think if we do get an Under My Skin Anniversary edition, I think it's just going to be very similar to the way they did Let Go, where it's like the remastered album and then maybe a few of the B-sides that were officially released already, possibly like one or two songs that weren't released before, but I don't think it's going to be anything like super big. And also people are wondering about the documentary as well. She's been working on this documentary for like a couple of years at this point, and it kind of sounds like it was meant to be released after the 2023 tour was over, but it's like she's still filming it. And so a lot of people are wondering if they're going to be filming this new tour that she's doing and use that for the documentary. And maybe they're combining the anniversaries of Love Sucks and Under My Skin. And then like she also just had the Canada Walk of Fame last fall as well. And so maybe they're just trying to combine a bunch of different anniversary events or something into one. So I don't know. I think it's possible like maybe by the end of this year, like maybe it was supposed to come out earlier and then something happened. Like maybe they didn't have the right footage that they needed, or there was too much of Matsun in it. They wanted to cut him out, and then there was like not a lot of footage left over. Or maybe because of the strike that happened with the actors and stuff, maybe they couldn't do anything with it. And by then it was like kind of too late to put it out. And so maybe they sort of like pivoted to be like, why don't we just combine a bunch of different anniversary events in one and release it with the new album? You know, I think that's a possibility as well, that the documentary might be released alongside the new album maybe, which would be something that she's never done before as well. Another thing that people brought up, or like I guess a concern that people brought up, is Avril doing a greatest hits tour, what this will mean for her future tours, because like I said, in the past, her tours have always been named after whatever album she has out at the time. Even if she wasn't performing a lot of songs off of it, it was always kind of branded around her latest album. So if she's already doing a greatest hits tour, what is the next tour going to be like? And if she's pretty much planning on always just playing singles every single tour from now on, like, is she gonna, like, what are the next tours going to be called? Or, you know, is every tour from now on going to be like a greatest hits tour? I think that the longer an artist tours, like once they become kind of a legacy artist, they kind of don't really brand tours around their albums anymore. They tend to kind of just call it like, you know, Avril on tour, Avril live in concert, whatever, that kind of thing, just something really generic. So if they decide not to brand tours around her albums anymore, that could be a way to go, just giving it kind of a generic name. I guess it doesn't have to have a fancy name. And she also has talked about possibly wanting to do a Vegas residency at some point too. So, I mean, it's possible she could go in that direction after this tour. Maybe after a couple of tours from now, she might decide that she wants to do like a Vegas residency kind of thing instead. So it's possible that she could decide to go in that direction instead of doing traditional touring. The last thing I want to mention before we wrap this episode up is to let you know, in case you don't know already, that if you're listening to this podcast on Google, I think it's by March is when Google Podcasts is actually going away. You won't be able to listen on that platform anymore. And I think they're moving everything that's on Google to YouTube Music, but I don't think I have the capacity at this moment to be able to like move everything over or start uploading onto YouTube Music. So if you listen to this podcast through Google, I would recommend going to a different platform, like whether it's Apple or Spotify or whatever other platforms are out there. So that's about all that's happening with Avril at this moment. As we've seen, we never know what she has up her sleeve. It's like she's always working on something behind the scenes, and then she just, like, we think she's quiet, and then she just announces something out of the blue. And so it's possible a new single or a new album could be on the way any day, for all we know. Like I said, I will try to do my best when she makes like a big announcement like this, or, you know, a single album, something like that. I would try to do my best to even just try to get up like a brief episode talking about it. But in the meantime, like I said, I have tickets to go see her in August, and I'm very, very excited about it. I hope that anybody else who wanted to get tickets was able to get tickets. The shows have been selling really, really well. And so I hope that that encourages her to keep coming back, and that it shows her that people are still interested in her music and do want to continue to see her live and that kind of thing. So I hope that if you have tickets that you'll enjoy your show. And I'm so excited to see what she has planned for the tour, and to see, you know, hear and read about everybody's experiences going to these shows, and just seeing, you know, the different songs that she's going to perform for the fan requests and that kind of thing. And like I said, at the very least, I will try to do an Under My Skin anniversary episode, and then also an episode this year about once I finally do go to my show, and then come back and update you all about what it was like and what she played and that kind of thing. So lots of exciting stuff to come this year. Whether I'm here to recap it or not doesn't really matter. I think it's going to be a really good year for Avril and us fans. So that concludes this edition of the Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform so you can get new episodes directly in your feed. And please take a minute to leave a rating or review to help more fans find the show. We're currently streaming on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Audible. And you can also find me on Instagram at Best Damn Avril Pod to keep up with the latest podcast news. Join me again next time on the Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast. The Best Damn Avril Lavigne podcast is hosted, produced, and edited by Andrea DiFrancesco. Theme music is HD and Lights by J. Powell Flicks. Follow the latest podcast news on Instagram at bestdamnavrilpod or email bestdamnavrilpod@yahoo.com.